Hello, friends. Before going to our main topic, if I ask you about, or if I ask you for the examples of living and non living things, I'm very sure that all of you will be able to answer that question. So, we know that there are many, we know the various examples of living as well as non living things. So, when we talk about living and non living things, have you ever wondered what are the criteria of life, or what are the criteria which will define a particular thing to be living? So, what are the criteria of life? We have answered to this question many times, I guess. So, the two main criteria of life include the growth and movement. That is, a living organism always exhibits growth as well as it shows movement. Now, we will speak more about the living organism. Now, a living organism inside the body of a living organism, or whenever we talk about a living organism, there are so many processes which it undertakes and which is very important so that the life is maintained. So all these processes which are very necessary for an organism to stay alive can be termed as the life processes. So what are these life processes, or which are the examples of these life processes? We mainly have four types: nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion. These are the life processes. Now, talking about each, we know we get energy from the food we eat. Now, whenever we tell about the food we eat, the digestion part, how we are consuming in the various organisms are there, so how each organism consumes the food, these are all discussed in the nutrition part. Now, whenever we take in a complex food, there are so many chemical reactions that is occurring on this food. That is, it is mixed with digestive enzymes. Now, it will undertake so many chemical reactions like the oxidation, reduction, or the redox reactions occurring. So, for all these processes to take place, there is a need of gaseous exchange. That is, depending upon the organism, few organisms need plenty of carbon dioxide and few organisms need oxygen inside the body. So depending upon that, there is the gaseous exchange occurring. So this is concerned with the respiration. Now respiration is a process where the gaseous exchange is occurring. Now we told about the various chemical reaction which is occurring on the food we consume. Now, once all these reactions are done, once the food is digested, it has to reach all part of the body. Now, this is done through the transportation process. Now, when chemical reactions are occurring, there are so many byproducts which is produced at the end. And these byproducts, and in this products only, there are few substances or materials which are not required by the body, and even its accumulation in the body can be very dangerous. So these byproducts or waste materials has to be removed out from the body. Now this is done through the excretion process. Now in this particular session, we'll be discussing more about the nutrition part. Now, when we talk about the nutrition, we mainly have two types, that is autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. So nutrition, I told that it is the consumption of food, or it is the method by which an organism will get nutrients. Now we'll define each, autotrophic and heterotrophic. In autotrophic nutrition, the organism which follow this mode of nutrition is called as the autotrophs. Now, these autotrophs will synthesize their own food. They will not depend upon any other living organism for their food or nutrients. And the examples of this is plants, algae, blue-green bacteria, etc. And for example of heterotrophic nutrition is human being and fungus. And now you know why we are called as heterotrophs. That is, we depend upon another living organism for nutrients. Now we'll start with the autotrophic mode of nutrition. So what is autotrophic nutrition? We have already told that here the autotrophs, they will only synthesize whatever food is required by their body, or they will only synthesize their food. So here auto nourishment or self nourishment is taking place. Now, which is that process by which the autotrophic or autotrophs will synthesize their food? It is the photosynthesis. It is a very familiar term for all of us. So, what is photosynthesis? We'll try to define this. So, this is the process by which the autotrophs use sunlight to synthesize nutrients from carbon dioxide and water with the help of the chlorophyll pigment. Now, we'll see more about this particular definition. Now, you know now what it is autotrophs. That is, organism which follow autotrophic mode of nutrition is called as the autotrophs. Now, talking about the sunlight. Photosynthesis, the word itself, photo means light. Now, it is taking place only in the presence of sunlight. Now, here, sunlight is important. We use sunlight. Now, photosynthesis can occur only in the presence of sunlight. They synthesize their nutrients from carbon dioxide and water. The two main raw material or the two main raw material for photosynthesis is the carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide they get it from the atmosphere through gaseous exchange, and water they get it from the soil with the help of the chlorophyll pigment. What is a pigment? Pigment is actually a substance which gives color. All the green parts of a plant or a tree, it appears green to us due to the presence of this chlorophyll pigment in the plants and trees. Now, do you know where this chlorophyll pigment is found? Chlorophyll pigment is present in the organelle called as the chloroplast in plants and trees. Now we'll discuss about this chlorophyll pigment and chloroplast more. Now before moving to all those topics, we'll first see the chemical equation, or we'll try to write a chemical equation for this process using this definition. Now, in this equation, you can see in the definition only we saw that they need carbon dioxide and then they need water, and it is taking place only in the presence of sunlight and using the chlorophyll pigment to synthesize their nutrients. So here the product what we get is the C6H12O6 or the glucose, and we get oxygen as a byproduct. Now oxygen is evolved out. Now this oxygen is evolved out through gaseous exchange and we inhale in this oxygen. Now the carbon dioxide, I told that it is important. Now sunlight, you know, sun is the source of sunlight. Chlorophyll pigment also, now you know, it is present in the chloroplast. That is the cell organelle which will carry this chlorophyll pigment. Now when you look into this equation properly, you can see that light energy is converted to chemical energy. Light energy here, it is mainly the sunlight. So the sunlight is utilized to synthesize chemical energy inside a autotroph's body. So here the light energy, conversion of light energy to chemical energy is actually occurring. And how is this process occurring? That also we'll see. So what are the steps of photosynthesis? The first step of photosynthesis is the absorption of sunlight by chlorophyll pigment. In the previous slide, when we saw about the chemical equation for sunlight, we saw that sunlight is very important, and even chlorophyll, that photosynthesis will occur only in the presence of sunlight using the chlorophyll pigment. Now you know why the plants need chlorophyll pigment. That is, they need sunlight for photosynthesis. Now who will absorb the sunlight for plants? The chlorophyll pigment will absorb sunlight for the photosynthesis process to take place. Now, next step, it is the conversion of light energy to chemical energy, we told. Now, how is it taking place? It is taking place by splitting of water into hydrogen and oxygen. The water molecule which is present, which is used as a raw material, it will split as hydrogen and oxygen. Now, it is a very important step which is taking place, which will lead to conversion of light energy to chemical energy. And now you know from where oxygen is produced. In the previous equation, we told that oxygen is the byproduct, and we now know where this oxygen came from. Now, next process is the reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. Just like water only, carbon dioxide is also another raw material. Now, we got carbohydrate at the end, that is the glucose we got there. Now, how is this glucose formed? It is by the reduction process which is taking place, that is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate is taking place, and that is how we are getting the end product during photosynthesis. So, these are the three main steps which is taking place during photosynthesis. Now talking about the factors that is affecting photosynthesis. We told that carbon dioxide and water, those are the raw materials. And we told that it takes place only in the presence of sunlight. So now we know temperature is also required for photosynthesis to take place. Now, carbon dioxide and water is required because the photosynthesis will take place only in the presence of these both. That is, they are the main reactants which we saw in the chemical reaction. So, the reduction in the amount of carbon dioxide or water will reduce the rate or speed of photosynthesis. Now, they need light energy in plenty. That is, photosynthesis will occur only in the presence of sunlight. So, light energy is also required for photosynthesis process to take place. So, these are the four main steps, that is carbon dioxide, factors, that is carbon dioxide, water, light and temperature. Now, we saw that the gas used during photosynthesis is the carbon dioxide, and we even observed that oxygen is formed as a byproduct during photosynthesis. Now this is a gaseous exchange actually, because plant is taking in carbon dioxide, it is giving out oxygen. So gaseous exchange is occurring here. Now how is this gaseous exchange occurring? So when we talk about the gaseous exchange in a plant, we have to talk about the stomata. Now, stomata are the tiny pores that is present on the surface of the leaves. Now you can see the wallpaper itself. It is actually a section of a leaf. When we observe a section of leaf under microscope, we get to see the stomata, these tiny pores, and adjacent to that we see the epidermal cells. Now, uh, talking about the stomata more, in this picture only you can see here, we see the two bean-shaped cells or bean-shaped structures, this green colored structure. These are the guard cell. They are called as the guard cell. Now, in between these two guard cell, you can see a small tiny slit here or tiny pore here. This is the stomatal aperture or the stomatal pore. Now, adjacent to this guard cell, we have so many other cells. That adjacent cells, they are the normal epidermal cells which is present on the surface of the leaf. Now, on this guard cell, you can see another part labeled, that is the chloroplast. I've already mentioned about this chloroplast, that is chloroplast will have the chlorophyll pigment in it, and which is important for photosynthesis process to take place. So, photosynthesis will take place only in the presence of the chlorophyll pigment. So, chloroplast is the site of photosynthesis. So, I told you about the slit or the stomatal aperture which is present here. Now, do you think the stomatal aperture or the stomata is kept open throughout the day, or is there any condition when the stomata is kept closed? We'll see about that. Now, what are the conditions occurring here? Now, in this first picture, we'll discuss about this picture first. In this picture, you can see the two guard cells are present. Surrounding to that, you have the epidermal cell, and at the center, there is the stomatal aperture. Now, in the second picture, you can again see the guard cell is present, epidermal cell is present. Now, stomatal aperture is not visible here. Now, what are the two conditions, or what are the conditions at which this happens? Again, back to the first picture, we told that whenever gaseous exchange is occurring, or the gaseous exchange is occurring through the stomatal pore. Now, Apart from the gaseous exchange, even the exchange of water or the entry and exit of water from the guard cell is also a very important point of discussion. Now, when water enters the guard cell or when guard cell is filled with water, they will increase in its size or they will move apart from each other. Now, when they move apart from each other, this aperture will open or this stomatal aperture will increase in its size. So, this is the opened condition of the stomata. So, this is the opened condition of stomata. Now, when we talk about the closure of stomata, whenever the guard cell will lose water, it will shrink. Now, the stomatal aperture is closed here. That is why it's because these two guard cell they will come uh, close to each other. They will shrink because water is lost here. Now they will shrink and it will lead to the closure of stomata. Now the stomatal aperture is not visible here. It is because it is closed now because the guard cell has lost water from it. So these are the conditions where stomata is kept opened and stomata is kept closed. And now you know why the water is very important. The entry and exit of water is important. Why water is an important factor for determination of the rate of photosynthesis, because the availability of water will lead to the opening of stomata, and when stomata is opened, the carbon dioxide will enter into the plant body or plant parts, then only the photosynthesis will take place. Now, this was the end of autotrophic mode of nutrition. Here we discussed about the process of photosynthesis, the factors of photosynthesis, the chemical equation of photosynthesis. We discussed about the stomata, the opened and closed condition of stomata also. Now we'll see about the heterotrophic nutrition. So in this mode of nutrition, the organism will depend upon another living organism for their food. Not necessarily living organism, they will depend upon another organism for food. Now we have three main methods of heterotrophic nutrition. First one is the saprophytic nutrition, next is the parasitic mode of nutrition, and then next is the holozoic mode of nutrition. We'll start with the saprophytic mode of nutrition. We need to know that what are all these three about. Now, saprophytes, the organism which will follow saprophytic mode of nutrition is called as a saprophytes. Now, these are organisms that feed on dead, decaying plant or animal material. That is, they will derive their nutrient or they will absorb their nutrients from the dead and decaying plant or animal material. Now, in this picture, you can see this is the mushroom or it is a fungus. Now, mushroom, it's a very familiar example actually. You can see it on a wooden log or on a tree trunk. And whenever we talk about the mushroom, there are two types of mushroom, that is, which are edible and which are poisonous. And depending upon that, people use mushroom as food also. So this is an example of saprophyte. Now we'll tell about the parasites. Now parasites are those organisms which will follow parasitic mode of nutrition. So these organisms that obtain food from the body of another living organism. In saprophytes we saw that they are depending upon dead organism. Here they are depending upon living organism itself, and these living organism can be termed as the host. So the parasites will derive the food from the host. Now the two examples which is given in the textbook is that of the Cuscuta plant and the Plasmodium. Plasmodium is a parasite which causes malaria. And in this picture you can see the Cuscuta plant. This is a Cuscuta plant and it grows on another plant. So it is a parasite. It is deriving nutrient from another plant. So this is the Cuscuta plant and now we know the parasite. Now whenever we discuss about the parasite, we mainly have two types of parasites, that is endoparasite and exoparasite. Now, what is endoparasite and exoparasite? Endoparasites lives inside the host body. That is, for deriving the nutrient from the host body, they will live inside the host body. So examples are roundworm, tapeworm, and these are mainly concerned with the intestine. They will infect the intestine and they will create problem there. And next is the exoparasite. These will live outside the host body. So examples are leech and lice. Leech, they will suck the blood, and lice, uh, it's present in the hair. So these are the example of exoparasite. Now, parasites are usually benefited while they harm the host most of the time. Whenever we started the topic parasite, we told about the plasmodium, that it causes malaria. Here, tapeworm and roundworm, they will infect our intestine, and then roundworm can even infect the lungs, and it can create problem inside the host body. And again, these parasites are actually, they are parasites because they are deriving the nutrients, so they are always benefited. Now they harm the host most of the times. Now this was the end of the session. Here we discussed about autotrophs, and in heterotrophs holozoic mode of nutrition is there pending. Baki both we discussed. Now we'll see the examples too here. So this is a tapeworm, this is a roundworm, it's a leech, and this is the lice. So now we'll see few questions from this portion. Differences between autotrophic and heterotrophic mode of nutrition. I guess heterotrophic mode of nutrition we'll be discussing about holozoic in the next session. Then you will be able to answer this question very properly. Now at least you can talk about the autotrophic mode of nutrition. The examples, the process which is taking place, where it is taking place, and about the photosynthesis also you know very well now. Now what is photosynthesis? We gave the definition in the beginning only. And what are the raw materials required for this? We told that carbon dioxide and water is the raw material. Now, what is the chlorophyll, and explain its role in photosynthesis? Now, chlorophyll, we told that it is a pigment which is present in the chloroplast. And talking about the role, we told that it is for the absorption of sunlight for the process of photosynthesis to take place. Now, what are the steps involved in photosynthesis? We discussed about 3 steps: the absorption of sunlight, the conversion of light energy to chemical energy by splitting of water, and then the reduction of carbon dioxide which is taking place. So those are the steps involved in photosynthesis. And do remember the chemical equation also, that is also very important. Now, what are the conditions at which stomata remains opened and closed? So we told the entry and exit of water. When water enters, the guard cell will increase in size, they will move apart, and the stomata is opened. And when the guard cell will lose water, it will shrink and they will come closer to each other, and the stomata will close. So that is the condition. And also try to remember the diagram also, the labeling also: guard cell, stomatal aperture, chloroplast, the epidermal cells which is present. Next is, what are endoparasites and exoparasites? So that was the last topic which we discussed. Endoparasite, which will live inside the host body; exoparasite, which will live outside the host body. And we spoke about the examples also, we saw their pictures also. So that was the about the endoparasite and exoparasite. So in the next session we'll be discussing about the holozoic mode of nutrition. There we'll be discussing about amoeba, paramecium, and even nutrition in human body too. So that's the end of today's session. So hope you got an idea, a rough idea about the autotrophic and heterotrophic mode of nutrition, and your feedbacks are very vital. So let us know about how you felt after seeing all these videos. So thank you.